Driven to porn, the church's STD references. There are some things that can just frustrate me. One is the oversimplification of dealing with sexual issues, including sex education. It is such a difficult subject and one that takes much thought to the particulars. Wouldn't it be nice if all parents taught their kids about sex? But that is not our world. Fear might be the number one motivator in sex education in the home. If you do it, you will go to hell, get a disease, or both. Watching porn will make you unable to love anyone, and you will no longer be able to get an erection with a real person. The way we discuss sexual issues can be always in the negative, motivated by fear. How have you done in sex educating others? Do you find yourself being motivated by fear? But does fear work? How about being scared straight? Did that program actually work? I can remember on my Twitter account getting a tweet from a pastor that read, quote, 1 out of 5 Americans have a sexually transmitted disease, unquote. The minister desired to use it to share how God's way of marriage is better, as it is safer. One man and one woman for life. It's an oversimplification, but it's Twitter. Maybe it frustrates you too. For we all know that marriage, even Christian marriage, is not stumble-free. There are many that end in divorce, and others stay together though they are miserable. Life is not easy, whether you are a Christian or an atheist. I'm not sure how the Christian culture ever got to this conclusion with sex. Quote, Christian relationships are better, aren't they? Unquote. It's a statement that needs further understanding, in my opinion. Sex in or out of marriage can be difficult for people. Our sexuality can be complicated to understand. People can get sick outside of marriage and within it. None of us have a get out of jail card in this matter. How many actually feel comfortable to talk about sexual desires, wishes, and wants? Knowing that sexually transmitted diseases are out there will not necessarily prevent people from having sex, nor push them to monogamy or staying a virgin. It could for some, but it could also totally go another way, as it has. I will show you how. What is a society to do when it is aware of STDs? Have no sex? Have safe sex? Abstain? Do what the famous dictator Mao did in China by treating sexual desire as an affront to the state? Over the last 30 years or so, there has been continual push from the church to share the STDs awareness program. I'll explain. This information is used to show people how God's way is better. But what church leaders are unaware of is it is moving a culture to find other ways to get their sexual wants fulfilled. Online porn is just one of many. This kind of voyeurism is relatively safe in comparison, but that is debated. See, quote, Pornography, Public Acceptance, and Sex-Related Crisis, a review by Milton Diamond. It also is an answer to STDs. No relationship, no disease. It's there when you want it and can be over anytime you like. In any culture, where do you expect people to go with sexual desires? The church? Many try to find help within the church, but the church itself is impotent to discuss sexual topics. I can understand the church's STD scare tactic when they are talking to those in the church. But to share this publicly with those that do not believe that STDs is a reason for Christian monogamy simply does not make good sense. For those who do not believe, as I once did, the church is the last place I wanted to go. They didn't seem too happy about marriage, and any kind of pleasure they spoke of seemed programmed and mechanical, certainly not passionate and fun. But the porn culture held out much more hope to find a place where I could find my sexual needs met without having to have sex and potentially damage my life, emotionally or physically. Could it be that the constant reminder of STDs is pushing a secular humanist society to more and more porn use? And could it be that this way of thinking actually gives weight to the idea that porn is good for society? I mean, people are getting off with themselves instead of acting it upon others, right? If not getting disease is the goal, then why not? I use a girl in college as an example. She's young and flirtatious, friendly. She's not experienced in sex, but has had a couple boyfriends when in high school. She's interested in the opposite sex and is tantalized by good-looking men. She would love to remain a virgin, as she was raised with a Christian set of morals. She does love God and knows being on a college campus and wanting to remain a virgin will be tough for her. Upon going to a get-together, she finds herself intrigued by some of the guys that she meets. It's college. It's hard not to meet people. She could start getting involved with them, but she knows that it is probably not the best idea due to her studies. Boys get in the way. Her parents agree wholeheartedly. They also give her a quick speech on the fact that 1 out of 5 Americans have STDs. She is certainly wanting to avoid that. She makes up her mind that she will not date, but cannot shake this sexual desire that she has. What is she to do? Go out and get intimate with a guy? Stay home and maybe self-gratify herself from time to time, whether to porn or not? Most parents that I have given this scenario to say strongly, neither. Again, that is the ideal, but there is a reality. And the real is that people in college are at a sexual peak in their lives. People in societies from the past 6,000 years or so have engaged in sexual activity in their teens. Women were married off from junior high into their college years. Think of that for a second. Women were married at young ages, some way too young from our perspective. So the real is that older teenagers and people in their 20s will desire sex. For Christians, we have fellowship, confession, Bible study, learning to do things different, that all constitute help in these areas. But it is not foolproof. When Christian leaders tell a youth to just wait on the Lord, trust Him with your sexual desires, it sounds all well and good scripturally in our day and age. But it really is something quite new. What I mean is that your daughter would be married off at 13 or 16. Her body is ready. Are you? So what would you desire your daughter to do? To be honest, we all know what we would desire for them. But why is it that we cannot be honest with them to talk to them about it? Instead, we tend to shame them if we ever were to find out that they self-gratify. Instead of opening up a dialogue with our kids about self-gratification and the normal struggles we all go through in the body, we can hurt them by a lack of sharing our own issues with them, including our sexual battles. I wish we were all perfect people, but we are not. Your kid is not, and you are not as well. It is true that STDs are everywhere, but that is not the reason for monogamy, nor for the Christian way of marriage, dating, and sexuality. To think so is missing it completely. The attempt to scare people to the church's way will work on a few, but from what I gather in the world, most simply have chosen to watch some porn. Maybe in the future, people will not have sex anymore because of the propaganda of sex being unhealthy. Would you desire the government to regulate our sexual desires? Does that sound like a book or two that we might have read? Anyone? The Christian argument for monogamy should be from what God intended for a man and a woman from the beginning. It is an argument from intent. The argument assumes a personal God. When wanting to prove the purpose of a computer, you don't just make up things you can do with it. You look to what was intended by its maker. If there is no maker, then all bets are off. Go ahead and use it for a hammer or nightstand. It really doesn't matter, and arguing about its use seems kind of lame at this point. The STD argument is lame. Medicine will keep improving more than likely, which could make this argument a moot point. The better remedies they find for herpes, arguments against hooking up seems relevant. The better remedies they find for herpes and the like make arguments against hooking up seem irrelevant.